All right, welcome to another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me, I'll follow you back. And tonight, I was supposed to have a guest, basically a Chicago Bears fan. And what I'm trying to do throughout the season is get different people on that represent different teams, so you can get a different perspective on what to expect. This is a fan show, so I try to try to get as many fans on as possible. Um, Something that you will definitely enjoy is I will have some different radio personalities on this season, and it's going to be exciting. I've got some great content lined up. This season. This season's going to be a great season. So please be sure to check in and see who I have on. Rarely Even, what's going on? Hey, want to let you know that I do have a T-shirt for you. Longtime listener, follower. T-shirt should be ready probably within the next 2 weeks. So I'll make sure to get you hooked up. Raheem Means, what's going on, guys? If you, everybody that's in the chat right now, if you hit me up with a question, maybe we can definitely chat about Buccaneers business and any other questions you may have. So thank you for checking in, and I really appreciate the interaction. But to this week, they just wrapped up the rookie camp, so. Again, this is one of the rough times of the year. For me, one of the many rough times of the year because there's no football. You kind of have to fall back on if you have all 22 and you're able to watch some of the games from 2016. It's sort of it sort of kind of calms the mood a little bit that you get to watch some football. So that's really something that you can kind of fall back on. Douglas, thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited about the shirts. And guys, it's my gift to you for the loyal guys that check me out. I've got some people lined up that I'm definitely going to get those shirts out to. So stay tuned for that. Also, I will be in Tampa for the Chicago Bears game. The Florida Classic is coming back to Tampa, so I'm going to make a weekend of it. I'll be at the Bucs game against the Chicago Bears. I'll also be in New Orleans for the New Orleans Saints game, as well as the Arizona Cardinals game here in Arizona. So, it's one of those things. As far as the McClain signing, good question. What do I think of the McClain signing? I think it's good. He's familiar with Mike Smith's system. Both coaches are familiar with him, so. I think that, maybe there's a spot for him. One thing that I will stress is I like the fact that there's competition. I think iron sharpens iron, and getting the best player out there on the field definitely helps the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and puts them in a position to win games. And to me, that's the most important thing. And I know that I've said this before, but when Lovie Smith was let go, my whole thing was, consistency. Get a coach in here, get players in here that are better. If you're going to get rid of a player, make sure to upgrade that player to get a better player out there on the field. And, that's kind of what Jason Light has been doing is upgrading in different positions. And, exactly, Elliott did play well. And competition does make things better. And Douglas is asking about Evan Pamphile. You know what? I'm excited. I'm excited. That matchup, Evan Pamphile against Kevin Pamphile, I'm looking forward to it. That's one of the little things just get me going. But that right there, I'm excited about it. It's just hilarious, the fact that Evan Pamphile will be going up against Kevin Pamphile possibly to, in practice. So that's kind of cool. But, getting back to competition, that's what Tampa needs. And you saw with Roberto Aguayo, with the inconsistencies with Roberto Aguayo, they brought in competition for that position. So just because you're picked at a certain point in the draft doesn't mean that, you're a lock to get that position, except for, like a Jameis Winston, as long as he's continually getting better and, putting the team in a position to win. So always a good thing to have that competition there. And, A question for some of the listeners and, you guys in the chat. Uh, is there any specific players that you're looking forward to seeing and seeing how they improve going into the next year? For me, I know with the McLean signing, it's going to be interesting because a guy that I really like that I know a lot of fans kind of frowned on was Jude Aje-Barima. That's a guy that, he made that play in the Raiders game that took the game into overtime, which led to the Raiders winning the game. But I feel like, McLean is going to provide competition for some of these other cornerbacks and put some players on the bubble. So, you never know. Corey Harris, good question. Do you think Wilcox will start at safety? Again, competition. It remains to be seen. I think Justin Evans will, somewhere in there that, it's kind of hard to tell at this point until you go into camp and see how everybody is learning the playbook, how everybody is, how they're able to go out and make plays. So that all remains to be seen. I like the fact that we have more depth this year. That's key, is having depth in key positions as opposed to even last year where we struggled with in certain areas, not having really enough people, enough competition to really have good players out on the field. So again, that remains to be seen. I like Keith Tandy. I always have. I felt like Keith Tandy was one of those guys that never got enough snaps. And now here he is, and he came on in the back end of last season and really did a lot to help himself. And he's one of those guys that I'm really rooting for to keep that starting position and get out there and make some plays. And let's see, Sean Nelson here in Arizona, can't wait for the game. Been to the last two games up here. Me too. So, we're gonna shut that bird cage down. I promise you. This is not gonna be anything like last season's game. I promise you. And I normally don't put myself out there like that, but I feel like what Tampa has done, I believe that they will definitely get rid of some of the turnovers they had, and definitely this will not be the same type game as you saw last season. Douglas O'Connor's talking about he's interested in hearing more about Anthony Auclair, and that's somebody and I'm gonna be very honest, I haven't looked at the game film on him. It's a lot of players that I'm still looking at, trying to get through to get ideas of what I think of some players. So this is somebody I haven't really gotten a chance to look at, but it is somebody that I'll definitely bring this up next week, and I'll definitely have some answers on him. It'll give me a chance to study up. That's a great point, Jarrell Brown saying Levante David is the key to everything. He's the most skilled player, and with the addition of Evans, I'm curious to see if his game goes to another level. You know what, guys? This is the thing that I'm really excited about. We have the same coaching staff. We have a competent coaching staff, and we have the same coaching staff. So what's great about this is the core players, your Levante David, Quan Alexander, all these guys are familiar now with the playbook. They can come in, and there's no learning curve. They're ready to go in and go right to work. The guys that you're bringing in, the plug-and-play guys that you're going to come in, they're going to be able to really benefit from the experience of these defensive players that have already played in the system. So this is going to be great for them. I think it's going to be great for everybody. And it's to me, it's important to have consistency. And I think you're going to see a totally different Tampa Bay Buccaneers team than you did last season at this time, because you have so many more players that are experienced with the head coach and with the defensive coordinator. So really exciting. Yeah, I love Levante David. A lot of people said that his game was off last year, but I thought he made a lot of big plays, and the intangibles, plays that you really didn't see on camera, but the effect that he has on offensive coordinator, you could definitely see that as you're watching. If you go back and watch the game film, I love Levante David. Yeah, and Vernon Hargraves, that's a guy that I'm really excited to see how he improves from last year to this year. I was really happy with his production being a rookie and, having to face some of the best wide receivers in the league. I thought he did a good job, for a rookie. And I'm really excited to see him make that next step. And hopefully he will be the guy that will, help elevate this team. Because as you guys remember, 2015 was horrible. I mean, as far as the secondary goes, it was frustrating to watch. If you went back and looked at the game film in 2015, it was just from there to 2016 is night and day. You saw where you had consistency at the cornerback position. I felt like competent coaching definitely helped the secondary as well. But you bring in a Brent Grimes and you draft a Vernon Hargraves, and that definitely helps this team to progress to the next level as well. And Douglas O'Connor, Robert Ayers said yesterday that Mike Smith was the best signing of the off season. Consistency. Again, there's that word. You guys really should be listening to that word, using that word as much as possible. Consistency, because you're going to be proud of this team. Barring any injuries or anything like that, you're going to see a team that is not like anything you've seen over, I would say, the past since 2010, the winning season in 2010. So I look for big things from Tampa, and, that's going to be, different players that you're going to look out for. And, you're talking about McNichols and Beckwith. I'm very interested in seeing Beckwith. I guess, and again, I'm not a scout or a general manager. I'm not sure what everybody's seeing in him, but again, I missed on Quan Alexander, so that tells you about how astute I am is when it comes to different players. So yeah, I've seen some different things that Tampa has done, and we have a general manager that a lot of fans are starting to get comfortable with, a guy that goes out there and the decisions he's made has really benefited the team, especially with the draft. And we've seen what he's done in free agency, where he is the sole shot caller when it comes to player personnel. And we can see what he's done and how much Tampa has benefited by him being the guy. Jason Light he's done an awesome job. So let me see what's going on in the chat. What do you think of Buc's uncensored dividing the fan base? Well, again, that's an interesting question. I'm kind of sensitive when it comes to the fans, because there are a lot of fans that I personally know that since, I would say, John Gruden left, where we've had bad years and we have decent years, they've hung in there, season ticket holders, and everybody's entitled to their opinion. That's what makes being a fan a fan. But at the end of the day, what Bucs fans want, they want to win. They want to see their team proudly go into the playoffs. They want to be able to brag about that, that kind of thing. And that's something Tampa has not been able to do for a while. So, ultimately, wins are what really matter right now. Getting a team together that's going to go out there and consistently win. Let's see. If the safeties do their job, David and Spence combo will terrorize the league. I love Noah Spence, and just the thought of Noah Spence being 100% healthy based on what he was able to do playing through the injury he had last year. I'm excited. I'm pretty hyped up about that too. I mean, you have to be. I mean, you saw what he was able to do with the injury. Now he's got a season of pro football under his belt. This guy is going to be kind of scary, Excuse me. Eric Moreno, Mike Smith was the biggest all-season question. You know what? Just getting him back, I am really excited about that. As I mentioned throughout the show, consistency is huge, huge. And we haven't had enough of that, but here we go this season, and fans will be able to see how comfortable these players are going out in a system that they've already been able to play in. So you will see a big difference there. Eric Moreno asked about OJ Howard. I love the pick. I mean, everybody had their own thoughts. And this is the thing, fans. Tampa is in a position that they hadn't been in for a long time, where you're picking down towards the lower portion of the draft. So you kind of have to wait and see what's going on above you between picks 1 through 10. And the fact that OJ Howard fell to Tampa is crazy. And if you talk to anybody who's in the NFC South who's realistic and they do know football, they'll tell you that's a scary pick, because you have a Jameis Winston who can now throw to an OJ Howard and a Cameron Brate. And we haven't even talked about the wide receivers, which I haven't even got into that yet. But just the fact that OJ Howard has nice hands, he's got speed, and he's physical. He can block, guys. He can block. That's a scary thought. I mean, when you have a Luke Stalker who can block, decent hands, can't stay healthy, and you have a Cameron Brate who can't block as well as Luke Stalker, and what you have on the other side of the ball is a guy who can do all of that. So that's exciting, is having a legitimate tight end to go along with a Cameron Brate who 8 touchdowns last season. I mean, that's huge for a tight end here in Tampa. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited about that. As Douglas O'Connor was saying, Jason Light set up the roster in just 3 years to pick the best player available. I mean, that's a great point, because if you go back, I was on a podcast for the NFC South called Southbound and Down. And I can tell you back in 2013, 2014, I was talking about being able to draft in order to get the best player on the board. When you're hitting on your draft picks and you're not having a turnover within the draft, it really sets up the foundation for a solid team, a consistent team. So what Jason Light has been able to do in 3 seasons is very commendable. I mean, if you compare his wins against his losses as far as picks and draft picks and free agency, I would say he's been very rock solid, and he definitely deserves our respect as far as that goes. And Mike LeGarrette Blount was signed. I believe he was signed by the New England Patriots. So he's already spoken for. That's a good point about the O-line. I think the shakeup in the O-line, guys, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised with the O-line this year. Just kind of sit back and wait and see. I think they're going to gel a little bit faster than what you saw last season. And, with the addition of J.R. Sweezy, that's another guy that I would really ask that, fans, if you get a chance to get out to camp, kind of watch him and see what he does. I think he's going to be a quiet surprise as well, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think he's going to be a big addition, especially for the running game, opening up holes. So, I really like where Tampa's at right now, and, you're talking about, Donovan Smith getting it together. Yeah. Again, that's one of those things where, you get him and, you get that line consistent. I think that, what is this, his third season now? Second, third, this is 3rd season. I think he'll be just fine personally. It's still been growing pains, and I think that, once we get going, I think he should be just fine. Yeah. Doug Martin. I believe Doug Martin will be with the Bucs. The fact that they didn't draft a running back within the top 3 picks kind of tells me that they're gonna bet on Doug Martin this season to see what he does. And let's see here. This is Smith to get it together, or we will be drafting. Yeah, definitely. So Smith, this is his season. This is that time he's had enough time to get comfortable with the game speed of the NFL. And yeah, definitely, I'm with you on that, Rakeem. I think that he's gonna come in and he has to play well this year. So we'll see. Douglas O'Connor. People seem to think that Godwin will take Hump's job. I think it will be more of a 4 wide receiver rotation, much like a defensive line. Douglas, that's interesting you say that. Um, it's competition again. Humphreys is not going to get handed the job. He's going to have to come out there and compete to hold that position. So the best player, I believe that when it's all said and done, and we hit toe to leather on that first game of the season, you're going to see the best players that the Bucs have on the field as long as they're healthy. And that's definitely gonna include being able to to compete for that starting position, or that third position, excuse me. So Sims, Martin, Rogers, when Martin gets back. Yeah, we'll see. Hopefully Sims and Rogers can stay healthy. I love Charles Sims. I love the pick when they made the pick during the draft of Charles Sims. However, the one knock is he just cannot stay healthy. So hopefully we've got all the injuries behind him, and hopefully he can come in and contribute throughout the season, especially late in the season, where the last 6 games the Bucs season are going to be huge. I mean, they're going to be monster games, and not just outside the conference, but in the conference games. These are going to be some big time games. So you're going to need your players. Definitely during the beginning of the season, but for the most part, the last part of the season, you're really going to need them. I mean, you're talking about not getting a bye till week 11. So, I mean, since I can remember, I don't ever remember Tampa having a bye that late in the season. Maybe you guys can correct me on that, but it's one of those things that we'll see how that all works out for Tampa. Having a bye, and if they can get enough wins up to the bye, getting that week of rest will definitely help them going into the back end of the season for some of these tougher games. So it's going to be great. This is going to be a great season. One of the seasons that I've really, it's been a long time since I've looked forward to a season like this. And Rakeem brings up a great point. You see a lot of our games being flexed again this year. You've got Hard Knocks coming up, and I'm going to be very honest. I wasn't all for Hard Knocks in the beginning. I thought it would be a distraction. But you know what? When you look at the quality of players that we have here in Tampa, I think it would be great for Tampa to be seen on the national stage, just to see what other fans see in this team that, we as Bucs fans already know about. Players like Aquan Alexander, who's continually dismissed. Players like Levante David, who's continually dismissed as well. Mike Smith and Dirk Cutter. People can look at Dirk Cutter and see, hey, this is why Tampa brought this guy in to replace Lovie Smith. So it'll give the rest of the world a chance to see what we here in Tampa already know. So best offensive ever this year. You know what? I don't want to jinx anything. On paper, when you've got Mike Evans on one side and you've got Deshaun Jackson on the other side, and you've got a Cameron Brate and you've got a OJ Howard, on paper, that looks nice. It's I wouldn't want to be a defensive coordinator, to be honest. If they all stay healthy, that's going to be scary for defensive coordinators for a while. And let's see. No, it would be crazy if Blake Sims makes the roster. See some read option plays. Doubt it, though. You honestly, you never know. I mean, Dirk Cutter's pretty innovative with the game planning. You never know, what's possible, at that point. But again, tonight I was just wanting to get out here and get a feel for, what everybody's thinking with free agency, with what we did in the draft. Rookie camp is over. So you know what? We're on the downward slide. We're getting ready to start getting into OTAs and training camp. And, it's something to be excited about as a Bucs fan. And, are there any games, just kind of to the listeners, are there any games that you're looking forward to this season, other than the New England Patriots game? We all, it's definitely a measuring stick to see just where Tampa is in the grand scheme of things when it comes to the NFL, going up against a Super Bowl champion and how well they're fare. And Jameis Winston, that's the engine to the car right there. And how Jameis Winston goes is how this team will go. And he's one of those guys that I have a lot of trust in him. I think that he's gonna elevate his game. What we've seen from Jameis Winston since he's been in the league is he continually elevating his game. He's continually trying to learn to get better and hone his craft. And what the general manager's gone out and done is gotten him some weapons. And now it's totally up to Jameis Winston what he's going to do with this team and where he's going to take this team. We're starting to see a lot more leaders, players like Robert Ayers, players like Gerald McCoy talking about, what he can bring to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense to as far as leadership. We see Levante David. You see Quan Alexander going out. And, those are games, those are guys that really they get it. They want to win. I mean, they've got football from the neck up. So they're definitely trying to hone their craft every season. And it's something that's really excited, especially if you're a fan. Let's see. The Packers getting beat down is a must-see TV. That's going to be a great game. I'm looking forward to that game. You never know what the weather's going to be like with global warming, so it may be warm. You never know that time of the year, but more than likely in Lambeau, it's going to be cold. Let's see. Raheem, I'm going to the Miami game. I see us starting out 4-0. That Giants game is going to be interesting. Yeah, that's true. That Giants game, you never know which Eli Manning is going to show up from week to week. The one thing I will say about Eli Manning, the one thing you know about him is you just don't know, because this guy, he can be hot one week and the next week he's an interception machine. So, I feel like Tampa's going to game plan for him and go out there, and that should be an excellent game as well. Let's see. For me, again, like I was saying, I'll definitely be at the Bears game on the 15th. The away game for the New Orleans Saints, I will be at that game. And the Arizona Cardinals game here in Phoenix, I'm here in Phoenix, I'll definitely be at that game. That game is definite payback. The Cardinals shouldn't have – it should have never been that bad of a game last season. And I think that Jameis Winston has learned from that. I think he's going to bounce back and have a great game this season. So definitely something to look forward to. So again, guys, I really didn't have a whole lot tonight. Just wanted to make sure that I reached out to the listeners and the guys that check out the show. If you follow me on Twitter, I've got, just put this out there, I've got about 15 shirts. So just a small amount until we get ready for the regular season. But to a lot of the listeners, I'm more than happy to get those shirts out to you. I've got like maybe 5 so far that I've already got allotted out to people. So if you're following me on Twitter, hit me on the DM and get me your size, and I'll definitely get one out to you. Let's see. Are there any? Oh, hell yeah, we're gonna do it big this year. And everybody gets to see. Got to make room on the boat, because this is going to be a lot of people trying to jump on board. That's the truth, man. Everybody loves a winner. So, I feel like, Tampa is one of those teams that people want to like them. All they got to do is go out and win some games. And I promise you, it'll be big time. I'm here in Phoenix, and I've seen more Buccaneers apparel this season than I have since I've been here. So, again, Tampa is one of those teams you want to root for, but all they have to do is get out there and win some games to make it happen. So, if you can, please hit the like button on this, and subscribe. If you're not subscribing, please, just subscribe. It definitely helps me, keeps me motivated to do more. So, make sure that we take care of the fans, as far as this goes. A lot of other. Let's see. Do you think who will be the star of Hard Knocks and the biggest storyline? For me, Steve Tui Colovaso. is a guy that he's like right now this season when it comes to all the draft picks, he is my favorite. The guy is humble, the guy is hungry, and the guy is huge. And that's a recipe for a great storyline. A guy that he made sacrifices to stay playing football, and real humble guy. And I want to see him succeed as well. And that's to me is going to be a huge story. I know he's like the number 7 pick, but again, he's one of those guys that I really hope he succeeds. So I would say him, maybe a Jameis Winston. I think that with Jameis Winston's personality, I think he's one of those guys that, you hear the stories about him. And this has always been the consistent story about Jameis Winston since he was drafted into the NFL. You hear the stories about him. You hear the rumors. You hear the whispers. But once you get around him, all that goes away. And his biggest detractors, once they've been around the guy, they like him. They like being around him. They see what he brings to this team. So I think that I definitely believe that Jameis Winston could be, one of the stars of the show. And Sean Nelson, I'm definitely trying to catch up with you, especially during football season. I barbecue every Sunday, and we'll just have to get together and make something happen here. But kind of getting back to Hard Knocks, I'm again, I was one of those guys. Oh, I don't want to see it. It's gonna be a distraction. But now I'm looking forward to it. When you stop and think of the quality players that Tampa has here, and the coaching, I mean, you go all the way up from the general manager on down to the towel boys. I think that this team is in a position to have this kind of show and just show what kind of quality players that they do have. So, I'm actually looking forward to Hard Knocks. And let's see. C3 Church C3. What's going on, C3? Doug Martin might be a big story for the show. You know what? That's a good point. Doug Martin is a guy who was the second leading rusher in 2015, had a bit of a rough patch, but I think his head's back in the game. And I said this back in January, don't be surprised if the Tampa Bay Bucks keep Doug Martin around. And again, I think this is going to be the season where he shows what he can do or he doesn't. I'm pulling for him. He's been one of my favorite players since he was drafted. So, personally, as a fan, this is a fan show. One of those guys that I've really been pulling for. So I hope he does. Ali Marpet, his family's kind of popular in my opinion. Yeah. Ali Marpet, he's a great story too. He's one of those guys that before the draft, he's another guy that I talked about after watching him, during the in Alabama. He was going up against Danny Shelton, the Cleveland Browns defensive tackle, and he was holding his own. He was just doing good, and everybody was kind of questioning that draft move, but he's definitely come along and proven that he's definitely worth the draft pick. And I'm excited to get to see him as well. Let's see here. Excited for Hard Knocks. The biggest storyline will be Doug Martin and Roberto Aguayo. Aguayo, he knows his days could be numbered. I mean, when you bring in competition for a position that the job was pretty much handed to him, I think that he knows what's going on, and he has to come out and perform. That's all there is to it. Otherwise, he will be replaced, because ultimately, and you've heard Jason Light say this, he doesn't have a problem getting rid of somebody to bring somebody in who will do better. And we've seen this with some of the free agent picks that have come in and not panned out. So definitely something to look forward to. So that's pretty much all I had this week. I was just wanted to, again, make sure I reached out to the fans and the listeners, and I appreciate you guys. And like I said, if you follow me on Twitter, DM me, and I'll definitely get you one of those T-shirts, the Buc What You Heard T-shirts. You know what? I have to say, and I'm bragging on myself, Buc What You Heard has to be one of the coolest names to a podcast in the Bay Area. Has to be. I'm sure there's some that are close, but definitely a close second, but nothing like Buc What You Heard. So yeah, definitely I will get you one of those shirts if you hit me up. And that's pretty much all I have. Yeah, let's see. They better keep him. He's more hungry than ever. Sean, Nelson, who are they keeping? Who are you talking about? Doug Martin? If you're talking about Doug Martin, I 100% agree with you. I think this guy is going to break 1,000 yards. And you heard me say that. I think he's definitely going to break 1,000 yards if he stays healthy. I think with all the weapons that are out there, he definitely has the ability to do that. You have to game plan. Is one of those things that you can't game plan. Okay, if you look at 2016 and on the back end of the season, it was pretty easy to game plan against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because all you really had was a Mike Evans and Cameron Brate until he was injured. But this team here looks totally different from what you saw last year. So defensive coordinators are going to have to game plan totally different if they're going to try to at least contain this offense. So there's a lot that there's a lot of stuff going on, So definitely a lot of different things to talk about. Next week, I will have Michael Pless on with me from Real Bucs Talk. Guys, there's a lot of good Buccaneers content out there. There's a podcast called Pewtercast. Really great podcast, great content. I love those guys. They do a great job. Real Bucs Talk, another great outlet for getting Buccaneers news, great content. I know that we have the Pewter Report and some of the other things that we have, but there are some guys out there that really do a great job getting Buccaneers information out to people. FanRag Sports is another one. If you get a chance to check that out, if you go in there and choose NFL, go to NFC South, and then go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've got a lot of great content in there and things that a lot of people aren't covering, and it just gives you a different outlet than what you're used to seeing. So a lot of great podcasts out there, man. And I am always happy to promote and rep all of them. To me, I think I pretty much stopped watching ESPN a couple of years ago because of how they treat small market teams. I like the podcast. They're local. They're more fan generated. And, there are some like Greg Allman, another guy that, great person to talk to, great football IQ. And he talks to all the fans. I love his work. So it's another person that, you can really get a lot of benefit from. And let's see here. Let me go back here and make sure that I'm not missing anything. One decent story might be which wide receiver makes the final roster. It's kind of a log jam at that spot now. Yeah, last year, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but last year I really felt like it was Mike Evans in the beginning of this was the beginning of the season. It was Mike Evans, Vincent Jackson, then you drop down to Adam Humphries, and then everybody else was in a logjam. So when we got into preseason, you started seeing wide receivers. None of the wide receivers were able to distance themselves from anybody else, which, is kind of frustrating because all it took was Vincent Jackson going down, and then you really see where the deficiencies were with wide receiver. I think drafting a wide receiver was the best thing that could have happened. Bringing in a Deshaun Jackson was amazing. I mean, I don't know how many. I'm sure there are 31 other teams that would love to have Deshaun Jackson on their team, but the fact that Tampa has him on the other side of the ball from Mike Evans is huge. So, these are things that we're going to be looking at. Sean Williams, what's going on, my brother? How you doing? A guy that, he's in the division, nice guy, hate his team, but he's very supportive of Buc What You Heard, and I appreciate that. If you guys want to know what's going on in the NFC South, be sure to check out his podcast, Under the Dome. We're kind of right now, kind of at a truce because it's not football season, but it'll get fired up there, Sean. You know how it is. But just kind of getting back to that, I feel like, that's definitely something to look forward to, is to see who ends up making a team at wide receiver. And that's going to be exciting to watch, because again, and I mentioned this earlier in the podcast, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now are deeper than they were last season, which is something that, we haven't been able to talk about lately. We haven't been able to talk about that for years. Being able to draft the best player on the board, just haven't been able to talk about that, been consistently having to draft for need. So I think Tampa is turning the corner, and it's something that's really exciting to see. All right. And, again, I didn't really have a lot tonight, but, keep checking the chat, and people are chiming in. So, I just want to make sure that I shout everybody out. But that's pretty much it for me this week. It's going to be a full hour next week. I'll have Michael Pless on. Hopefully he'll be well. And that's pretty much it for me. Everybody have a great evening. Follow Buc What You Heard. Remember, tell your friends. Hit the like button, subscribe button. Always helps me to be motivated. And like I said, if you're following me on Twitter, here's my Twitter handle down here. Please be sure to hit me up and let me know what size shirt you need. And I got you guys hooked up on this first batch of shirts, because, I just want to show my appreciation for everybody checking out the podcast. Anyway, that's it for me. Remember, Buc What You Heard.